Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your sun in Sagittarius and your moon in Gemini. This combination is double masculine and double mutable. Double masculine energy tends to be extroverted. You'll have to look at your rising sign to see if that really comes into play in a big way. If you have a masculine ascendant or in other words, a fire or air sign as the ascendant, then chances are very good that you're very outgoing, that you are very social. If your rising sign is water or earth, you may be more reserved at first, but you have to look at the chart as a whole because a person can have their sun in the 12th house and be very enamored by solitude and not be as front and center as you would expect. And sometimes even people with a lot of masculine energy may still be more introverted. But in general, you're going to be very talkative. Both Sagittarius and Gemini are signs that rule houses connected with the mind. The third house is connected with the mundane mind. This is Gemini's house. It's the media, teaching, learning, but teaching at the lower grades, high school, that kind of thing. Disseminating information, but especially information of a practical nature. That's why I said mundane mind, and learning things like that too. But I also include like being a novelist and, a writer, a blogger, can be social media, journalism, anything like that. The ninth house that is ruled by Sag is going to be the higher mind, the university level education, the abstract knowledge that comes from philosophy, which is a big part of the ninth house. What else? This is the God house. So it's all about religion, but also other types of philosophies. Religion, organized religion, is one type of philosophy. The law is connected to the ninth house. And in addition to that, the ninth house is about long distance travel, anything expansive, whether it's geographical, through the mind, through the spirit, the spiritual practices and beliefs. And so you have like this wonderful combination of somebody who has it all, who has probably has a very fine mind, although the person could definitely have ADD, could be very scattered in their the way that they think. Look to your Mercury. I'm a sun in Sagittarius, but my moon is in Virgo, not Gemini. Although Gemini and Virgo are both ruled by Mercury, so they're going to have similar characteristics. So I think I can speak on this. And Virgo's a mutable sign too. And one of the things that can happen is that you're so diverse, you have so many interests that and Gemini especially loves novelty and variety, that you're just constantly, reading different things, but you're never finishing anything. I mean, the story of my life, although, I do finish books from time to time, but, just always dabbling in this and that. And that is pretty ADD, and focus may be very difficult for somebody like this. But look to the Mercury, because I personally have my Mercury in Sagittarius as well. The Mercury will never be far from the sun. So it's either in your sign or the adjacent signs. If it is in Sagittarius, it's considered in its detriment. I think that's what we call it, where it's in the opposite sign of the ruler. But I don't think that even in its detriment, that means that you can't have a good mind. It's just that I actually, to be honest with you, I don't see that it functions in a way that is negative at all. I think that having Mercury in Sagittarius can make somebody aware of the bigger picture, and that is very important when you are processing information. If you just have this narrow focus, it's going to lead to a narrow result. And being aware of different elements to me is very important. But in any case, the sun is the aspirational self, so it's how we choose to shine our light on the world. And with Sagittarius being at the helm, given the fact that the sun is that centerpiece, the center of your universe, you're going to look to the sun first, not the moon. I would never look at the moon and give it more importance than the sun. Now, I don't know about Vedic astrology. I know they really give a lot of importance to the moon, especially for women. But to me, the moon is kind of in the backdrop, being the emotional reactions to life. Whereas the sun is kind of like our goals. It is that masculine energy, but I feel like that is something that is very active. And the moon is very passive, and it's kind of like innate, for lack of a better word. So how I would see this is somebody who is very interested in things that are profound. Sometimes I think of Gemini as a little bit superficial, trying to gather information the way some people hoard material objects, and it can kind of be like trivia, knowledge for the sake of knowledge, which there's nothing wrong with that, but to me, I feel like with the Sagittarius energy being in the forefront, that you're going to have a desire for knowledge to assist in your spiritual awakening for transcendence purposes, rather than just to keep away boredom, to occupy your mind. And yet you do have this emotional nature that is Gemini. And I was emphasizing with Gemini the intellectual side of things, because the moon is your emotional nature. And so when you have it in an air sign, it gets a little bit tricky and a little bit hairy, because the tendency and the temptation can be to intellectualize your emotions, meaning that you are verbalizing them maybe to the nth degree, and you're able to pinpoint things with astounding precision, but you don't feel, or there's like this barrier between you and your heart chakra. And I'm just saying that figuratively. I'm not saying that you really have a blockage with the fourth chakra necessarily. But it can, the danger of that is that it can work either way. I mean, it can create a situation where you're perfectly aware, and this can happen with yourself too, and your own issues, is that you can perfectly acknowledge where you have issues like psychological, whatever you want to call it, emotional issues, or somebody else has these issues, but you are indifferent about really doing anything about it. And when I say indifferent, I'm exaggerating, but I mean you don't do anything about it because having an air moon sign means that you're emotionally detached. Now, it might not be the same because your sun is in the fire element, and that will make you more emotional. And of course, you could have Venus in Scorpio, you could have Mars in Scorpio, or Mercury or something like that, and you could have a lot more maybe of Pisces rising, and you are like definitely personally affected by these things, and you wouldn't be that glib about it. But yeah, I mean, Gemini can be glib, and that means that the emotions can be on the surface, and the person can be rather fickle, meaning that they are subject to changing emotionally on a whim. And so it may be hard for you to feel constant devotion or affection for somebody, that you kind of like get bored with them and you move on. This will be modified if your Venus and or Mars is in Scorpio, because Scorpio is a fixed sign. It's also a water sign, and maybe even Scorpio rising. I don't know how much that would affect the person's commitment in a relationship, but perhaps. And also Scorpio is intense as all get out, so it's the opposite of fickle. But in any case, one thing about this combination is it can lead to somebody who's very sarcastic and irreverent, sarcastic, and this can come out in different ways. If you are angry, rather than getting like screaming at the top of your lungs, you might just say something in a sarcastic way, which is a form of passive aggression. When the sun, depending on the degree span, if your sun and moon are within 10 degrees of each other, which is the degree span is called an orb in astrology. And I've seen, they say as much as 12 degrees, so that could be a very wide orb. It's called an opposition. So the sun, Sag and Gemini are opposite signs. So, but the actual aspect where it's called an opposition, it has to be within 10 or 12 degrees at the most for it to be an official opposition. And if you have that in your chart, first of all, look at the houses that the opposition exists in, because, for instance, let's say your sun is in the 10th house and your moon is in the 4th house. That could indicate that you have a hard time trying to what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know if calibrate is the word I'm looking for, but the ability to integrate, bring together these two polarizing forces. So, in other words, the person may feel either that they have to be a career person or at home. And usually this will be felt most by a woman, I would imagine, but even for men, the idea of raising a family, with a man, it could occur too if they're very dedicated to their career, but they want a family, and they're afraid that if they have a family, it's going to automatically destroy their career in some way. So there might be that kind of ambivalence between those two areas. And so how that can manifest just in daily life is a lot of indecision because your emotions may be quite different than your aspirations, your goals. So it's important to find a common ground so that you don't shut off one part of yourself. In terms of the kind of professions that you may excel at, they're very versatile. It could be anything in teaching from, kindergarten to college. It could be any kind of instruction where you are providing some kind of, but I think especially with Sag being in the sun, it would be more philosophical, or like a life coach would be a great one, because you can teach people how to learn how to become more detached emotionally so that they don't take everything to heart and it doesn't bog them down. And then that optimism from Sag is present. Probably would be a good combination for a lawyer, because there would be great verbal skills and a good mind and a lot of ability to see the bigger picture and all sides of an issue. I think with immutability. Some of the things to watch out for, scattered energy is a big one. I think people I was going to say people like us, because like I said, I have Virgo as my moon sign. I think we tend to be on the internet too much. I don't know about you, and that can create that can aggravate ADD for sure. I've always said the internet is like crack, because if you love information, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole. But you get to the bottom of the rabbit hole and you're like, what did I just do for the last 5 hours? So learning how to moderate that, and also learning how to develop your sense of concentration is important. So meditation without that monkey mind, which is having you scatter your forces. Learning how to finish what you start. And I think all of this is connected, where you have so many interests, but you don't want to be a jack of all trades and the master of none. You want to master some of the things that you're interested in, so that because you know what, people like us, we can really give the illusion of knowing a lot of stuff, but it can be shallow. Some of that knowledge, the depth of knowledge is not there in some cases, and you want to have that so that you can become more of an expert and less of a dabbler. And in terms of relationships, I think it's extremely important to pick somebody who you can have those long conversations with, and with whom you share some interests. So having somebody who is also an intellectual, having somebody that you who likes to talk, and it's very interesting, because I was speaking about on one of my YouTube videos about some one of the astrological thingies, and I mentioned that I had observed somebody in a cafe, a couple in a cafe. They were like an older couple, and they were like just sitting there, and I don't know if they were just eating in silence. And I was saying, it's really, sad or whatever that they don't have anything to talk about. And somebody corrected me and said, well, some people can just do that because they feel comfortable. And that's absolutely true. That was coming from my own perspective of, oh, what would I be doing in that situation? But, I know that with my partner, and I've been with this person for decades, that he and I can sit there and not necessarily talk, but it's pretty difficult. We're both Sagittarians, so it's pretty difficult. And that's a nice difficulty, because that's something that I personally like to do, is to talk. And really, when you think about talking, as far as I'm concerned, it's not just about mindless chatter just to avoid silence, because that's no good. It's when you really are eager to share what you have learned with somebody else. It could be some kind of profound thing that you've read in a book, or it could be the latest news that you hear. I'm not saying that everything has to be profound, but whatever it is, that you have somebody who is receptive to that. And if you don't, that's going to create friction in the relationship, I would think, because you don't have the common ground. So there are so many other things that people are focused on when they're, getting to know somebody, that I just wanted to put that out there, because I feel like if you find that person who can do that, but also gives you your freedom, because this combination is very in need of a long leash, then you will have it made. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.